I'm getting beaten by a Prius. What? I just lost a race to a Prius. Oh, that's terrible. Hello everybody, welcome to Casey's Garage. Today my dad and I are out exploring. Today we're out by the Seattle area on a mini vacation, I guess. We ended up renting a car because we couldn't drive our own cars down here. So today we're driving a 2017 Mitsubishi Mirage. They're not paying me for this. I'm not cool enough, so we had to rent it ourselves. So the first thing I noticed about this car is it is absolutely loud in here. I don't know if you can hear it over the mic, but it is really loud in here. The road noise is insane. The car is powered by a 1.2 liter 3-piston engines, 3 cylinders, that's it. Thing's got 78 horsepower, which is to the motor, not even to the wheel. So that's 1 more horsepower to the engine than my motorcycle has to the wheel. And the car weighs 2,000 pounds. So, you know, we're talking 0 to 60 eventually. 0 to 100 in 10 minutes. In fact, it actually does go 100 miles an hour according to the spec sheet, but that is as fast as it possibly goes. The car can handle up to 3,000 pounds, which means after the 2,000 pounds of the car, you can have you and your fat friend in a bag, and then the car's squatting. So, not exactly a good family car, but it's all right. One thing I noticed is the car has a really old suspension system design, so it doesn't really like to do anything. It likes to try to fight you on the road, I've noticed. Doesn't really seem like that good of a car, but you can buy one brand new for $13,000, so I guess it makes sense why people buy it. It's got surprisingly decent tires on it, considering they are 165/65 R14s. I didn't even know they put 14-inch tires on a car anymore. But it's running Bridgestone Potenza RE92s, which aren't too bad of tires from what I understand. I've never ran them myself. Usually when I buy tires, I tend to buy tires from Cooper, but they don't seem to be too terribly bad. Like, considering the car it's on, they're handling decently. The car has no power, but the big thing is the car gets between 32 and 41 miles per gallon, depending on how you drive and if you manage to get into eco mode or not. But unfortunately, if you want to go anywhere, you're not going in eco mode because you've got a basically full throttle everywhere. It's got about the same amount of power as like a car from 1980s. So don't really plan on going anywhere fast. This is the kind of car you get when you drive in the big city because it is so tiny. You can get this thing practically anywhere and have plenty of room. Like, I think the only car you can get that's smaller is probably a smart car. But this thing is so small that it's surprising that it's even a 4-door to me. But it's a hatchback, and the back seats are actually where the hatchback would go, so the storage isn't that big. But surprisingly, you can get a couple bags in the hatchback still, and a coat and a couple chairs before it's full. So you can buy groceries in it, just not very many. If you have a big family, you're gonna make 3 trips. The engine does come with a manual to sit behind it, or in this case beside it, where it's front wheel drive. But in the case of the car that I'm test driving now, it's got a constantly variable transmission, so, you know, just another retractor from it, which, that's okay. It's, interestingly enough, the car is so slow that you kind of hope for bad traffic jams like this so you can keep up. The front tires are right up in the front and the rear tires are right up in the rear. Kind of like that Golf right there, actually. So handling is definitely better than I expected, but still terrible. But it's got such skinny tires on it, it's amazing it can actually hold the road. It's actually only got like a 9-gallon gas tank under it. Even though it's got a small gas tank, it should compare with other cars where it gets somewhere between 32 and 40 miles per gallon depending on how you're driving it. So should be able to get 300 miles per tank. But when you do fill this car up, it's really not going to break the bank, because even if you run it to empty, you're not even putting 10 gallons in, which most places in the United States shouldn't even cost $30 to fill this thing up from empty to full. So that is a good thing. It's easy on the wallet. The radio is terrible, which I can't really show you because I don't want to play a song and get a copyright strike on my YouTube channel because I don't own the song. But take my word for it, it's absolutely terrible sounding. And on top of that, it's got a really unique deck, which means in order to replace it, you have to get all kinds of adapters and stuff in order to make it look good, and that costs money. And the speakers sound terrible too. And there's no back speakers, it's just front door, back door. So sound quality really isn't good. It's something you can probably upgrade, probably not something that you can get too much. Even if you put subs in the back of this car, it's not going to be too good because there's really not a lot of space for anything, but it is possible. I mean, really anything's possible. A few things I've noticed about this car, well, a few more things other than the 1,000 things I've already listed, is for one, it doesn't have cruise control. I'm sure it's got it available, everything has it available, I'm sure, but this particular car does not have cruise control. It doesn't have fog lights, but it still has fog light wires and like a button you can push to turn the fog lights on if they were there. So they just kind of cheaply threw it together, I'm sure, but that's okay. For $13,000, what do you really expect? Its body panel gap is absolutely horrible. Like, I bet there's a 1/4 inch between body panels in some places. When you look at the hood, it looks like it's partially open, even when it's fully closed, which really bugs me, but I guess it lets in more air, I don't know. Like, I'm sure it can't have been done on purpose. One thing I think is kind of neat about this car, even though it's got a 1.2 liter 3-cylinder engine, it happens to have a sport mode, which means you can go slightly less slow. I don't even think it even changes the engine at all. I don't think it's a tuning or anything. Honestly, I think it just changes the way the CVT works in this, because it just keeps you at a higher RPM. And one thing that's really interesting about this one is it's not one of those CVTs that are programmed to mimic an automatic transmission and act like it's shifting. It legitimately feels like you're riding a snowmobile. It just keeps you in peak RPM, which is a really neat thing because it helps to improve fuel economy, but it just feels really weird. It feels like you threw it in 6th gear and mashed on it and it's just slipping and just destroying the transmission.
The drawbridge is gonna go up.
The drawbridge is gonna go up. I have got to get this on camera. Let's see here. If I swing into this way, can I see it on the camera? I can see it on the camera. You know, Mitsubishi should watch this video and be like, yeah, we should totally sponsor him, and then hear just me shitting all over this car and be like, no, screw that guy.